Honda Accord V6 in the shop. Customer approved the valve clearance adjustment procedure, so that's what we're going to do. I want to start with cylinder 1, obviously, because that's our suspected bad cylinder. We saw the compression on that was about 10 psi lower than the rest of them. It wasn't bad, but I want to see on a cold engine, can we see anything with the leak down check. So just compressed air through a regulator into cylinder number 1. So I'm turning this up, and surprisingly, I barely hear any leaks whatsoever. That cylinder is pretty tight. I expected to see a little more leak. So that's not conclusive. Do we hear anything at the exhaust pipe? Not really. But we're going to do this valve clearance adjustment anyways. Maybe right on, right in that threshold. And as the valve is turning, you might hit a bad spot, good spot, whatever. So we have to take the intake manifold off, valve covers. So I won't bore you with those details. We'll come back when we get that valve cover off. And Honda makes it really easy to know which cylinder's on TDC. Right in this little inspection port, it's like a little rubber plug, they actually have markings on the cam gear 1 through 6. So right now I know I'm in cylinder number 1 TDC because the mark is lined up. So should be fairly straightforward procedure. Let's get it done. Okay, upper intake manifold's coming off. PCV hose is connected. Throttle body is out of the way. Intake air temp sensor, evap solenoid, PCV vent hose, brake booster hose, little vacuum line there, and got all these main bolts cracked loose. And there's in here, nut there, nut there. So, alright, let me pop that off. Valve cover on the ground. That wasn't bad at all for removal. So cylinder number 1, moment of truth. Let's wiggle the valves. Cylinder's at TDC. We have free play on the intakes. On the exhaust, that one definitely has lash. Right there. That exhaust valve is tight, is just right on the threshold of being open. And even though the leak down check didn't show anything, the compression check was a little, 10 psi, does that matter? When it's running, it does matter. Yep, absolutely. So, one tight exhaust valve confirmed. So let's adjust all the valves on the rear bank. Close that up. Then we'll do the front bank. Close that up. Assemble this thing. Run it. I'm hoping it runs as smooth as butter. Here's the spec for the intake and exhaust valves. So for the intake, we're going to set them to 8 thousandths. For the exhaust, we'll set them to 12 thousandths of an inch. And let's go. So for this procedure, you're just going to need a few simple tools. Feeler gauge set. Mine's an old school CRAFTSMAN, made in the USA. Yeah, it works great. 10 millimeter closed end wrench, flathead screwdriver, and a notebook. So here are the cylinders in order, 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to do intake and exhaust. So same orientation for cylinders 4, 5, and 6. And for each cylinder there's 4 valves. So right here I marked the exhaust. Right side valve was 0. We're going to set them to 12 thousandths for exhaust, 8 thousandths for intake. So basically just make yourself a little chart. So we got 24 valves total. Let's fix the broken one. Okay, so let's crack this nut loose. Step one. There we go. Here's my feeler gauge, and we have to get it in between the valve and the tappet. So you can see it's tight. I can't even spin it with my finger right now. So hopefully the valve didn't get damaged by running it like this. So let's see. There you go. It was just right on the threshold there. So quarter turn. Now we have some lash, so I'm going to do half turn. Plenty of lash there. Let's install our feeler gauge. Now the rear bank is a little more painful to do since you can't really see, especially with the camera there. But same procedure as any valve adjustment. Put the gauge in there and then just turn the adjuster until the gauge is snug. Tighten down the lock washer, and that valve is done. So I'm going to do this whole procedure. I'm going to write down the before numbers and set them appropriately. We'll see which valves, if any, are tight, and I don't know, this should fix the car. Alright, so on cylinder number 1, checking the intakes. This is 0.8 of an inch. It slides in, and you just want to see if there's any lash at all. And if it's close, if it's really close enough, remember the spec is from 8 to 9, so leave them alone. If it's like 1/1000 off, leave it alone. Don't waste your time. So far in cylinder 1, we had 3 good ones and white 1 tight valve. So next up is cylinder 2. We just rotate the engine until we see number 2 here, and then 3, and then we'll put that valve cover back on, take this one off, repeat the check. Hopefully this goes pretty quickly and not too many valves will need adjusting. So I'm finishing up the rear bank, cylinders 1, 2, and 3. So here's the results so far. Cylinder 1, we had one completely, no clearance. Cylinder 2, they were both just a little bit tight. This one was pretty tight. It was right on the edge. You could still feel a little play. So those are both readjusted to 0.12. Number 3, I don't feel any play at all here, and there is decent play on this one. So intakes are all spot on the money. So they're all 8. So let's adjust the exhaust number 3 and continue to the front bank. So now it's a treat to do the front bank. Everything's nice and accessible. The wiring harness is out of the way. So again, intakes are perfect, and the exhaust, definitely on the tight side. There's still a little bit of lash, but loosen both these up and finish this bank up, fire this thing up. I'm pretty excited. Alright, moment of truth. Let's clear the trouble codes before we go too far here. Read fault code. Okay. Okay. No fault code. Let's go to live data. Let's fire it up, see how it runs. Already big improvement, I can tell. We'll listen to the exhaust pipe here. It sounds better too. There's a slight little knock in there, but wow. Butter smooth. No more putt putt putt. Let's take a look at those fuel trims. Okay, we're looking very good here. So notice now short term on bank 2. Bank 2 is not running rich anymore. It's actually a little lean. So OBD2 data is quite slow. We'll raise the RPMs up a little bit. 5%, 7%, I'm okay with that. Long terms are clear. We did clear the codes. Bank 2 sensor 2. Cats are not warmed up yet, so let's take it for a spin. But yeah, this car's fixed. Customer's gonna be very excited. No parts required. I think this is the last week of winter here. We only had one really cold week. Had a couple snow events. Might go skiing today. Drifting a little bit into the lane there. But yeah, next week's gonna be in the 40s. It's all gonna melt, turn to mud. Typical central PA weather. Honda is running absolutely butter smooth. Fantastic. This car is actually really fun to drive for an automatic. Very smooth, peppy. My owner tells me it is on its second transmission. You know, Honda's automatics don't usually go past 200,000 miles. But man, the engine, like butter. So that's the end of this one. Happy ending. We got short-term trims, well within spec. Few percent. Our long-term finally started learning. No parts cannon required. So on these Hondas, 200,000 miles, you have weird rich codes or misfires, just adjust those valve clearances. Alright, we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.